everybody, welcome back to another Quick Games video, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to code the infamous Hello World. So there's going to be a lot of stuff that we haven't covered, so I made a slideshow to make it easier. So how do we code the Hello World? Well, first we have to figure out what the hashtag symbol means in C++. So the hashtag symbol in C++ is a preprocessor directive. Preprocessor directives give instructions to the compiler before the rest of the code is compiled. So this is most commonly used for importing libraries into our code, which is what we're going to be doing so that we can print to the console. It can also be used for other things like creating macros, but we haven't learned that yet because that's very complex. So the hash include is the preprocessor command that we will use to import a library. So we will use hash include to import that library. For today's Hello World program, we will be using the input and output library that is bundled with most C++ compilers, as it is part of the C++ standard library. So if your compiler doesn't come with the C++ standard library, then download a new one, because if you don't have the C++ standard library, you can't do a lot of things. But Visual Studio, if you install desktop development for C++, it's gonna have that. So don't worry if you're using Visual Studio 2019, it will work. Later, however, when your code base becomes larger, you have to be careful where you include libraries, but that's well beyond our skill set, because our code base obviously isn't going to get large. Well, all we're making in the end is pretty much a calculator program, so we don't need to have a huge code base for that, so we don't have to worry about it. And the format for the hash include is as follows: hash include, and then this angle bracket, and then the library or header that you want to include, and then the end angle bracket. So you just type in the name of the library or the header you want. Quotations can also be used instead of the angle brackets. Headers are where we define our functions, classes, variables, and more, but we haven't learned that yet as well. And libraries mostly reside in headers, but if the library is large, it can have many headers to deal with. So the input and output library, or the input and output set of functions, is only one header, so we don't have to worry about multiple headers we have to include. It's part of the C++ standard library, which does have multiple headers. So we might include multiple things that have different names of headers, but it's all part of the standard library. So that's where we get into the standard library. Everything part of the standard library will be formatted like this: std : and then your function or whatever you want. Just remember, anything that's part of the standard library usually has std : in front of it. So std is a namespace. Namespaces are not very complicated. All a namespace is you able to tell the difference between, let's say you have one function that's called do multiplication, but then you include a library that also has a function called do multiplication. So it's going to be really unreadable, and I'm pretty sure that the compiler will give an error because there's two functions with the exact same name. So if you type in do multiplication with that library included, it's not going to know which one to do. Should it do this one or should it do the other one? So namespaces just help you do that. So if you have a namespace, if you have do multiplication in the library with a namespace around it called math library, it would have math library : do multiplication, so that you can tell the difference between the two. That might be confusing, but you can see std is a namespace, which just stands for standard library. So just remember, this means that it's in the standard library. So let's get started. Open your text editor or IDE and follow me. Okay, so let's do what we wanted to do before. At the top of the file, you usually include at the top of the file, so make sure that you include there. Hashtag include, and then we're doing angle brackets. And the autocomplete already showed up a list of all the libraries that we can include, and this is all just stuff that comes with the Windows compiler. So we're going to be including IO stream. Okay, and what that stands for is input, output, stream. So this is going to allow us to take input and output to the console. So to print to the console, we do what we did before. So we want to call a function from the standard library. So we say std : cout. Okay, and cout is console out. Pretty much just printing to the console. And then we do these angle brackets, and then quotation marks. So now we can write whatever we want. So I'm going to write hello world, semicolon, as all programs or all lines of code in C++ end with a semicolon. So make sure we save this. Control S in Visual Studio is the shortcut, or you can go to File and Save All. So make sure that you have it saved and you can press the play button, and you should see hello world right up here. Hello world. So you can see, let's say we want to print another line. So we do what we did before and say hello world for a second time. Okay, so if we run this, there's going to be issues, right? Because there's this one, there's this hello world, and then we're printing, and look what happens. It prints all in the same line, and it's kind of unreadable because you have two hello worlds in the same line and then for a second time. So what we can do this is, there's actually two ways to do this. The first way is, after you're done printing those quotation marks, you can use this called std end L, which stands for end line. Okay, so when we do that, look at this. You can see it printed on a new line. It printed this on a new line. So basically what this is doing is, after it prints hello world, then it creates a new line so that when this prints, it's on the new line. There's also another way you can do this, doing /n, and when you do this, it will do the exact same thing. And the main way, the good practice that you should do it in C++ is this way. But /n also works. I can tell you the issue with that when we get into like how strings work and everything, but do this, and this is good. And we'll do end line on this one too, so it gives us some space between our program and what the garbage Visual Studio creates. So you can see this is what our program's actually doing, and this is what Visual Studio prints out. So but yeah, this is our program. It looks nice, and yeah, that's how to create the most infamous program in programming, the hello world. So we learned a lot of stuff today. We learned how to include libraries. We learned how to use the in and output stream library. We printed to the console, and we learned how to create new lines. So in the next video, I think what we're going to be doing is creating variables so that it's much easier to have a lot of strings, because So I think in the next one we're going to be learning about variables, which is very, very important in C++. You need to learn how to use variables in C++. It's necessary. So thank you guys for watching. You can be very, very happy with this because I was very happy when I did my first Hello World. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!